In this tutorial, I'm going to take you through everything that you need to know about your pre-show setup. As you can see, this is how the console looks when you first load it up. But actually, before we go into all the different features and details, you've already seen one when you start up the Quizstorm engine. The Quizstorm Ident music is there by design. It's an opportunity to check that your sound is on, that your volume levels are correct, and that's why the music goes from left speaker to right speaker, so you can do that check prior to even going into the setup screen. Let's start by looking at the slots at the top of the screen here. You can see you've got slots 1 to 6 that are currently empty, but that isn't the maximum number of slots available. You can go to the plus and the minus icons on the right hand side and add as many slots as you like, up to 50 slots. So each module contains 5 questions and answers. So if you did have all 50 slots active, that would be 250 questions. So a massive quiz. Below the slots section are all of your modules, and they are ordered into different categories. You can see on this evaluation version, there's just 30 modules that are installed. That will show you the number that you do have installed. If you are using the premium version, you have access to thousands of modules. But they're ordered into different categories. So along the top there, you have text-based quizzes. The next category down are your picture quizzes. Then you have music quizzes or audio quizzes. Then we have a section for film, and finally a section for multimedia, which is a mixture of all of the above. So you can browse through here in a sort of Netflix style, looking for something that takes your fancy. Or you could go up to the top of the screen where you've got a search facility where you could search for a specific quiz that you want. We can check out the search feature at the top now. Let's just put in the word pop and see what comes up. And as you can see, there's 5 categories. There are 5 modules that fit under that category. So the search facility, very powerful to find maybe specifically what you're looking for. So to add a module, you can just click in the bottom right hand corner of any module and it will add it to the first available slot at the top of the screen. We can hit delete if we don't want it. There's a little icon in the corner. If we click on the quiz module, it will actually give you a nice description in there. It will tell you the type of quiz it is. We see here it's a text quiz. All modules are 5 questions. And just as some guidance, we've put some ratings in there. So if you're not entirely sure of the content that's in there, this will give you some guidance. You should always probably check the quiz content before you run a show, but this is here just to give you an idea. And accessibility relates to how suitable it is for people, as you'll see later on when we look at some of the other quizzes. So every quiz comes with a little description, and as you'll see in here, we can either add it to the first empty slot or select a specific slot. So if you went, okay, I don't want that in first round, I want it in round 3. There it is, it's in round 3. You can delete it from there if you want to, or add it back in the first empty slot. Let's take a look at some of the other modules that are in here and see how they're slightly different to the first one. So this is a picture quiz. So you see the type there is picture quiz. Again, 5 questions. It's got a PG rating, so you might want to check the images in there. They might not be suitable for everyone. And under accessibility, being a picture quiz may not be suitable for people with visibility issues, vision impaired. Maybe that might not be suitable. Similarly, if we look at one of the audio quizzes, nice description there, gives you an idea of the music that's in it. Being a music quiz may not be suitable for people with hearing impairment. And again, in the film category, we've got a symbol there that suggests if you've got hearing or seeing issues that might not be suitable. So there is plenty of information in each of these modules that will help you make sure that you're loading up quizzes that are going to be suitable for your audience. Okay, I think we ought to load up a quiz, and for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to pick something from each of the categories. So we'll pick something from the text category. We'll pick something suitable from the picture category. Put that in slot 2, and then we'll have a look at what we have in the audio category, epic movie themes. Put that into slot number 3, and let's look at the film category. Let's add a bit of 007 into there, and then finally we will add something from multimedia, which is a sort of mixture of the categories above, and I think that will do us for our quiz setup. Now, once you've got your modules all lined up, you might not want to use the quiz straight away. You might just be doing some planning for a quiz you're going to use later. So you can use Save Modules Setup, this red button at the top. And if you click on that, it will open your Windows browser, and you can then save a slot configuration data file. Give it a name. Let's pick something original like My New Quiz 1. There we go. Save that somewhere that you can find it. And then if you were to go into the slots, and let's just delete all of these for the sake of the demonstration. And then I go, oh, what was that great setup that I had that I wanted to load? Was that it? No, I can't remember what it was. Oh, there we go. I saved it. Let's go and load it. And there you go, you're back. A great feature for planning ahead and getting organized. Now, let's take a look at some of the other buttons on the interface. Let's go into Controls Help and have a look in there. This is really just a reminder, a reference point for the 3 different ways you can control the Quizstorm engine. Firstly, we're looking here at the PC keyboard shortcuts and what they all do. And on the right hand side, you can also select the other 2 ways of controlling the Quizstorm engine. The master keypad, this has all the same functions, but actually the master keypad has additional functions when it comes to promo videos and sounds. But watch the tutorial on the Quizstorm master keypad for information on that. But there's just a quick reminder of what all the features of the master keypad do. And then finally we have the Enjoytech master controller. So if you happen to be using this system and that's the way you want to control it, but you can control it with one or all of those ways actually. So that's Controls Help. Let's go into Settings. There's quite a lot in here. First of all, at the top, player's name. That can be set to custom, which means they can type their own name. If you'd like to restrict people not to be able to type their own name, you can go to this drop down and just make it that they can only have a player number or a team number. That's if you've got a problem with people typing in rude things, then maybe you want to select that as your default option, but custom allows them to type their own name on the Quizstorm keypad app. Promo loops, in here you can set whether they play once, single loop or loop all. This is a very powerful feature for when you're not using the Quizstorm engine for quizzes, but maybe you just want to run a sequence of videos, promotions, or whatever you want to put on your screen. So actually that's a very powerful feature that you can use to utilize your screens when you're not using Quizstorm to play quizzes. Color scheme, this really relates to Enjoytech. That's the standard Enjoytech, but if you want to use the other branding or the other colors for the buttons, that will mean that the Quizstorm keypad will match the colors with that color scheme. So that's really only if you want the Quizstorm keypad to match with a different color scheme on the Enjoytech. Then we have background music. There's some default music, but we've got a few other choices in there. This is the music, the tuck music, the bed music that happens when nothing else is going on. Or you can actually turn it off completely if you prefer not to have any music at all. Now, by default, show winners in steps is on. This means when you get to the last round, instead of showing all the top 6 positions, it will require you to press the space bar or advance button, and it will reveal them in reverse order: 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's switched on by default. We think that's a good feature, but if you prefer them just to appear, then you can untick that. Similarly, we've got the default as auto stats. That means between each question you will get the 6 columns that come up. But if you want to do that manually and you don't want it to come up after each question, then you can untick that and have a different default setting. Underneath there, we have an option for a white background. If you're using a projection screen, then the black background that is standard is not going to be ideal. But if you tick that, it will invert the image so that you get black on white, which looks much better if you're using a projection screen. That's off by default, but if you want that and you're using a projector, we'd recommend using the white background. It looks a lot nicer. And then the countdown sound. It's probably a good time to mention that the countdown clock and the countdown sound, so you can switch the countdown sound off, you can change the length of the countdown. In Quizstorm, the countdown is purely there as an aesthetic audio reference. It doesn't actually do anything in relation to stopping people voting, so it's purely a function of an audio reference and a visual reference as to how much time people have got, but nothing actually happens until you reveal the answer, so that's something to bear in mind. But you can change it in there if you want, but it's set as the countdown sound on and 10-second duration as standard. And then finally, in here, we've got your intro text, round text, and outro text. And this really is just what appears at the bottom of the screen at the beginning, at the intro, between the rounds and the outro. So you can change that to whatever you want, bespoke that to your particular setup, your particular venue. And the last thing to mention here is that once you close this dialog, this will not save as your default until you run a show. So if you've changed the settings in there and you want them to be saved as the default, then once you've closed this box, you would need to go in and run a show to make sure that they stick as your default settings. Now, in order to show you how that works, let me just run this show. Let's go to the start screen there, and we're going to run it. And then I'm just going to hit end so I can go back to the setup and show you. If you run a show, what it will do is in the setup, you'll see that the modules we had loaded, and essentially it thinks we've run, have now got green ticks to show that these have been used. Now, if you didn't want those green ticks to appear, you can run it in rehearsal mode and it will ignore this feature. So that's really good if you want to do a run through, but without that happening. And if I click on reset usage data, it shows you the last time it was reset. I click reset and now nothing has a green tick on it. So this is ideal if you're not having the same audience over and over again. You do want to use modules, but you can't remember who you've shown them to. That is what the feature is there for, showing quizzes that have or haven't been used. Now, let's just load this setup one more time. And we're just going to run it very quickly. And then we'll end this and go back to the setup so I can show you the last few features in here. So once again, we've got our green ticks that are appearing to show that these have been used. And at the top, you can see we've got these two buttons, show unused and show unused ever. If I click on show unused, you'll see now it's only showing the 25 modules that haven't been run. So if you just want to bring up the quizzes that haven't been run since you last reset, that's a really useful feature. And then show unused ever, what this does is even if you've used a reset usage data, it will still remember what quizzes have ever been used on that particular machine. So that could be useful if you've done a reset usage data, but you think maybe you have actually shown quizzes before. So that's all of the features there, and all of the buttons and what they do. Some very, very powerful features. There's only two buttons that we haven't gone into in here, which is the Enjoy Tech options and Quizstorm server options down at the bottom there. If you go to the tutorial called Interactivity, that will go into all of the details of how those two features work. That concludes the tutorial for pre-show setup. Be sure to watch all the other tutorial videos we've got, and as always, reach out to us if you need any help at all. In the meantime, happy quizzing.